started here just in a little bit. So you can find your seats and hold up with creative Power and get our evening going here. So for those of you who have not met yet, my name is Troy. I'm one of the organizers of the Arizona and Phoenix Psychedelic Society, so I'm glad you're here. You can find us on Meetup, Facebook, Instagram, here at Meraki regularly as well too. We love being here. And tonight I'm very excited to bring Jennifer Murphey to the stage. She has some very, very interesting things that she's done and also share about us. So we're just going to have a conversation, kind of do a little podcast style. Also want to get you guys involved too, make it conversational. So if there's something that you're curious about as we're moving along the conversation, you just kind of grab my attention, raise your hand or something. If it fits in, we'll try to squeeze that in. If not, I'm sure Jennifer's open to questions at the end. And so we'll go ahead and get started. I'll let Jennifer kind of begin by introducing herself and telling a little bit about her story up until this point, why she's on stage here, and then we'll just take it from there.
Well, my name is Jennifer Murphey. I'm an attorney, but it's definitely not my defining feature or characteristic. But I don't know where to begin, but I've always wanted to do something to help people. I've been involved in the mental health industry for a very long time due to a family member, and have always just seen the system and how it is not really set up to help people. And I've just always wanted to be an advocate for people who essentially have suppressed voices, and that's many. There's those in the mental health field, or mental health conditions, or supposed mental health conditions. I don't really fall into that. I don't like to label with diagnoses or anything. Veterans, elderly, and I've just always wanted to work with those individuals and help empower them. And so I went to law school with that in mind. And one of the things that fascinated me in law school was how much a lawsuit can change things. You can write laws, you can draft bills. There's different ways to make change, big change. But a lawsuit is one of those ways, and that just always fascinated me. And I started down the plant medicine path 3.5 years ago, and just really wanted to kind of pursue my happiness. So I was working in employment law at the time. I had worked in mental health law, disability law, veterans, and elder law, and loved that. But something was just, it just wasn't right. Something was telling me it wasn't right. And so I ended up quitting my job in August 2021 to pursue my happiness. I didn't care if I was homeless on the streets. I didn't care, because as long as I was happy, that's all that matters. And I still had that seed in my head, that okay, a lawsuit can do some big change. And I worked a lot with addicts in recovery at the time, and just I have a big soft spot in my heart for them. I've talked to addicts in recovery all day long, and homeless people all day long, because that path to go deep within yourself and be able to come out of that has my complete respect. And those are the types of minds that I want to talk to all day long. And so I, working with addicts in recovery and working with the plant medicine community, I started to really kind of dig into the war on drugs and see the harm. I was I was volunteering in a homeless shelter, writing resumes for homeless people, and this was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. Every person that would come up and sit across the table across from me couldn't even look me in the eye, because they just felt like they were worthless, and their spirit was just crushed. All because maybe they had used substances that weren't government approved. And they have been labeled as society as criminals, as someone who's just worthless, has nothing to give to society. And that crushed my heart, to see this beautiful human, and they can't even look in the eye because they just feel like they're so worthless. And a lot of that was due to the so-called war on drugs. At least that's what I've chosen to focus my energy to and dedicate my soul to. So in August 2021, when I quit my job, to pursue my happiness, that seed of like, okay, I want to do something big, I want to do something to help people, just kept growing and growing. And then I started researching and writing, and because I knew I'm very, very good with research. Like I can take a lot of information and condense it down into something that makes sense. And so on my own, I just researched and wrote, and I ended up I just drafted a lawsuit. It is actually the biggest lawsuit in history to end the war on drugs. And it's Jennifer Murphey versus the United States, the DEA, FDA, HHS, and the state of Arizona. And no one, I can confidently say it's the biggest one because there's 2 international treaties too that where essentially 100 countries have signed away their power over to the World Health Organization, the United Nations, where they get to decide what we can and cannot put in our bodies and what we get put in cages for what we put in our bodies. And these countries, including the United States, have just given away their power over to the World Health Organization. And so I challenge those treaties, and no one has ever challenged those. And I put in evidence from like the 1960s, all this stuff that it was just so obvious of what they're doing. To me, it can sound conspiracy theorist to some people, but I've done the research, and what I've seen, it's not pretty. And the truth is one of the biggest mind control and slavery systems out there is the war on drugs. And so this lawsuit is seeking to free people from that control, so that they have the opportunity, so they don't sit across from you, you can't look you in the eye with their spirit's broken, so they have the best opportunity to remember who they are and remember how amazing they are, and that you have the ability to heal yourself, and the ability that you have something so unique to offer humanity. And we need every single human right now to remember that and to contribute that in their own unique way. And this is to lift that control, so every human has the best opportunity to do that if they so choose. So,
yeah, I think it pause that. It's a good lead-in. Tells us a little bit about Jennifer and where she's been at. She's been working really hard. She is very intelligent and very dedicated, and I know this has been a tough road to even to get up to this point, which probably not too surprising. This is not just flying through our judicial system, right? So I'd love to kind of get an update just on that, in particular, just the lawsuit, like maybe a little bit of the journey of where it started, and if there's any other colorful details you want to add in there, but more importantly, where does it stand today? What are kind of the next steps, kind of short, medium term, where are you going with that, and then we can kind of go from there.
Sure. I knew it'd be at least a 3-year thing, but it might be probably 10 years if we're being realistic here. But what's normal for lawsuits is you file a complaint. And so I filed it. You have to have standing to file a complaint. And standing is essentially you have an injury. And that's like the core. If you don't have standing, because anyone can just say, oh, I don't like that person, I'm going to sue them. But that's not going to go in court. You have to have some kind of injury. And so the injury here is that, so I had to come out in the open. I use and grow mushrooms, and I revealed everything and said, because of that, I face a constant or a credible threat of prosecution because of what I am doing. I'm expressing, I'm doing what I feel is my human right to do. But with me doing this and this unconstitutional law, I face this constant threat of prosecution, and that's my injury. And so with that standing, I filed a complaint. It's 50 pages, tons of research. There's lots of different claims in it, due process, First Amendment, freedom of thought, which is my favorite, and we'll probably go into a little bit more later, and some other claims. And so you file the complaint and say, okay, I have standing because of this, and this law is unconstitutional and goes against my human rights because of this. And so we filed a complaint. And then usually when it comes to lawsuits, the next step is the defendants will file a motion to dismiss. And basically that's just saying, you know what, your claims are bogus, you're just filing this lawsuit, we shouldn't even use our energy and resources to go to trial or anything because this is just bogus. And that's normal, the defendants will always do that. So they file their motions to dismiss. The United States and the state of Arizona, you have one attorney for all the United States defendants and one attorney for the state of Arizona. And so they filed the motion to dismiss, and then I got to respond, which I enjoyed that opportunity because I could really break it apart. And so then that was in June of last year is when the motions to dismiss and the responses and everything were in. And so the judge has however long he wants to kind of decide on that. And so I was waiting every day checking my email. And it took 9 months, very fitting number. And so in end of March, he submitted his decision. And so there's different things that could happen with the motion to dismiss. They can either dismiss all claims, and then the case is closed for the district court. They could dismiss some claims and keep some claims, or they could keep all the claims. And what they did is they dismissed all of the claims, but they said I had standing. And this was the most beautiful decision that ever could have happened, because they said I had standing, that I have an injury, that I can bring these claims, but that the claims were not really founded in law. So basically what that judge handed me was a golden ticket to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. And so that's, I filed my notice of appeal. Wednesday is my deadline, so it's a really easy thing. You just say, hey, I'm gonna appeal. And so I filed that Wednesday, and then I have 40, so the next 40 days I will be buckled down, channeling whatever I need to channel to draft a beautiful appellate brief for the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. And then from there, it doesn't matter, even if they dismiss it all, well, then I go to the United States Supreme Court. It's a fast track. Had they kept some claims and not dismissed all of them, I'd be stuck in still the district court, federal district court, going through like depositions, and which would be fun, to get all that information and ask them for all these documents and do interviews. I would love that. And it will still probably go there eventually. But for now, it now gets higher up. So Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals is the next step.
Nice.
Just quick comment. I don't know who else in the room would call going to court or doing depositions fun. You got some friends in the room. So it's good. I love how you put that. I think we've got the right person going after this.
It's like being an investigator, detective. It's
yeah, for sure. Yeah, good.
I got a question. So, very brave to do that. Couldn't you have gone like class action for people who have been arrested and imprisoned? Couldn't you have done that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I did think about that. I went through a lot before I decided what to do. And there was a few reasons I went this way. For one, asking, because I worked a lot with, as an addicts in recovery. I was working at a iboga place in Mexico, and had a lot of people who were just like, yes, I would speak and everything. However, it would put them on the line, because they would have to admit, I do this. In order to have standing, you have to admit that you currently do certain things, and it puts you on the line. And then the challenge of pharmaceutical, what I'm doing is challenging a lot of big energies.
Oh yeah.
And so I thought about doing that, but also knowing my capability of, what I can know how to do in class actions. Now I'm responsible for these clients,
Right.
And so this way, I'm the one being put on the line, and I don't care.
It's very brave, like I said. It's very brave.
I've had to go through a lot. I've gone through a lot of spiritual training, and I've done a lot of the stuff in ceremony, working on the lawsuit in ceremony, and I've had a lot of, this is all energetic, and I've had a lot of training on how, to working with these energies, and I have no fear. And this is big to go and do this and challenge this. Does have risks involved, and so this way I have standing, so why bring someone else and put them on the line, and the relief I'm asking for with all this, it's not for me. I don't care, I'm still gonna do what I do, but this is for everybody. This is for all humans, and so no one else had to be put at risk. No one else had to be put on the line. And I felt that also it was a benefit because if some law firm just did this, it wouldn't really, get, not that I've gotten attention or anything from it, but it would be perceived a little bit differently. But knowing that just this woman, just this single, woman just took on all the pharmaceutical companies, the World Health Organization, all that by herself, that's something that is a story. And that's something, not that I would hide my whole life. This is not something I really wanted. My higher self just signed me up for this and didn't really consult me. But I felt like that could be something that would actually work for the benefit of humanity. That's something that it's just something different. And what matters is what is the end, is not really the end, but what is the best for humanity, what is actually going to work. And this, either law firm, because I thought about asking for help, and I did ask for help, and no one really would listen. And so I ended up just having to do it by myself, and but I saw the benefit of that. That's a story, and that sells, and that's what's needed to help humanity for, what I believe in, so.
It's hard to break traditions.
Yeah.
That's what we're dealing with here.
Exactly.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think the judge knew what he was doing when he gave you that golden ticket?
So, I've worked a lot with him energetically. John Tucci, he's, out of all the Arizona federal district judges, I would have picked him. And that's how I know this is also meant to be. He's amazing. He was a former prosecutor. His wife was a former public defender. They've seen the harm of arresting people and putting people in jails for simply holding their hands, non-government approved product. And they've seen all that. And so I was so happy that he got it. And I don't know for certain, but I feel, maybe working with it energetically, that he has to know. I mean, when he read that lawsuit, it's different than any other thing I'm sure he's read. I energetically passed it off to him, it's out of my control. This is your opportunity. You have the opportunity right here to change the world, to whatever you say. And a lot of district judges are not going to make a decision on something so big. They're going to say, I'm going to pass it off. So I have no doubts that he understood, and I do feel when I first read that decision, that's what I felt. Because by giving me standing, but dismissing everything, he knows what he did. So I wanted to send him an email and say thank you. But I don't know. I have faith. I have trust that he knows what he did, and he knows he did the right things. So,
Chris?
I'm sorry, can you just clarify, so you're filing the lawsuit against a treaty? Is that what you said, like a WHO treaty?
Well, that's one of so with a lawsuit you have your defendants, which is the United States, the DEA, FDA, HHS, and the state of Arizona. So all of them are involved. And then you have your claims. And
HHS being Health and Human Services.
Health and Human Services, yeah. So with the Controlled Substances Act, the DEA, they defer scheduling decisions to HHS. HHS defers it to FDA. So they're all involved in the decision making of what will be scheduled how. So they're all involved. And the reason I was able to add the United States as a defendant is because of the treaties. So you have your defendants, but then you have your claims. And the claims are that the Controlled Substances Act is unconstitutional because it violates our freedom of thought, due process, all these things. And those treaties that are written even more unclear, just so vague, then the treaties also violate the Constitution because blah, 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 blah. So, yeah.
Okay, cool, perfect.
One more. Okay, so my question is, even if, let's say it goes to the Supreme Court, which I hope it does, and even if they were to rule that it's unconstitutional, we're still embroiled with international law. We can't get out of that from the Supreme Court, right? That's gonna.
Because of the treaty?
Because of the treaty, we have treaties with all these other countries that we're not allowed to use these substances. They've all agreed, and we were kind of the leaders of that. But we're in it, and we can't if we change our mind, what's going to happen, right?
Yes.
Right.
Well, that was the kind of the dream, you know, that if the United States says, you know what, this is unconstitutional, that's going to trickle all around the world because those treaties say that. And the
Hope so.
United States holds a lot of power. They hold a lot of say. And if they say that's unconstitutional, those treaties they're going to fall apart.
Hope so.
I mean, yeah, I have to allow myself to believe that. Like, that's the kind of the journey too. So that's the intention, is that this is going to have a trickle effect around the entire world.
One second. Specifically to that end, I'm curious your thoughts on some of the recent global news that has happened. I think Australia in particular, with allowing MDMA and some of these things that are very new in the news. I don't know, do you think that would have play an impact on this at all? Or?
I do not keep up on any of that stuff for a reason.
Fair enough.
I stay out of it. I stay in my little bubble. I have my focus, and because I see all the energy at play, and that can get to me. And so, for my protection and for my ability to focus, So I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, fair enough. Hector?
Now it's a lawsuit. Okay, if you win, does anybody have to pay anything to you?
I'm going to request it, yeah. I'm going to request attorney's fees. That's going to be a whole other battle just because I'm self-representing. But I don't really care. I mean, it's not about that at all. I've spent a lot of my all my savings, everything doing this, but I don't care. Yeah. I mean, but I could request attorney's fees at the end. They might say no because you weren't representing anybody, but that's a whole other issue.
And let's say you win.
Mm-hmm.
There have been instances where somebody has won a lawsuit, and then these government agencies simply ignore the decision of the court. Is that a possibility? And then if it is, then what's next?
Who knows? They could rebel. They could say, yeah, I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead. Because I just like to kind of go with the flow and see what happens, Yeah, I actually haven't even thought about that. But it is a possibility. And then it would probably be another several years of going back to court and saying, hey, you guys said this, they're not listening, and yeah, it might be a whole nother chapter of this. Nothing stops
And
that.
If you win,
Mm-hmm.
and this pursued, would you be able to sue individual people in the bureaucracy for monetary damages?
Maybe. I don't know. I haven't looked into that. I'm sure I'm clever enough. If I wanted to, I'm sure I could think of a way. But again, I would have to have standing for these individuals. Like, how did they injure me personally? So I don't know. I don't think that would be something that would be a continuation of this lawsuit. But if that's a totally separate thing, because they would have to be found liable for harm, which that could be done right now simultaneously. This is different. This is unconstitutional. The law is unconstitutional. I'm not going after individuals. So yeah, I mean, that's probably potential, but it's not related to this lawsuit. Yeah.
What's best case scenario for you?
Mushrooms for everybody.
There you go. Well, I don't look at the end result. To me, it's already won. The fact that this is out there, written, filed publicly, the first domino has been knocked over. That's all it takes sometimes. And this could be decades down the line that something actually happens. But to me, it is a success of the trial. But the ultimate relief requested is that nobody gets put into a cage for simply holding in their hand a non-government approved product. for their own personal experience, for having their own personal experience, for their thoughts, their beliefs, their feelings, which is the only reason why all these things, certain things are criminalized. So that no other human gets put in a cage for simply holding a product in their hand that doesn't have the government's label on it. That's the goal.
I think a lot of us might share that same goal. I do. So thank you for Rob, you have a question?
Yeah, I'm like there's a ton of things going through my mind from different perspectives in terms of legal pursuit. But what I would like to probably speak first off into this space is that there's a group of individuals who are Native Americans who pursued a 10-year legal battle with the United States through the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And since the establishment of federal tribes back in the 1700s, the Bureau of Indian Affairs were the designated agency to provide the wellness and care of Native Americans through these treaties that were established. But fast forward to, I think it was a case back in maybe 6 years ago, that it was won and announced that this law firm had a legitimate right that the BIA, since the time of its establishment to about 6 years ago, was inferior in their ability to provide services to Native Americans in terms of their well-being, which resulted into what a lot of these Native Americans are experiencing today, the highest rate in terms of substance abuse, lack of housing, things of that nature. And they won that case. And so, speaking that into this moment to give you a sense of reference as to probably something to look at. And so that's one thing that's coming to my mind from in prayer, and that will guide you through that process, that it could be done. The other thing that's coming to my mind is in the sense that you're being injured. I'd like to know, in terms of the Freedom Act, there's an element within the Freedom Act that talks about a spiritual practice. Is there anything within the filing that talks to you in terms of how you define what that spiritual practice? Obviously, you're being injured in terms of it being substance or being in that preference of being injured in the sense of being prosecuted.
Yeah.
But in order for you to have something, or in order for you to have a practice, there's probably an internal belief that you do have that allows you to have that practice, to give you that personal right to do what it is that you're doing. So I'd like to know a little bit about how you define that in terms of your having access to these practices and having that personal right, if it's constructed in the context of the spiritual practice. What does that look like? Because now you have you as an individual who is practicing your religious right as an individual. Versus here in the United States, you have entities or organizations in terms of churches, different denominations, to be able to come in and be able to provide a sacrament or the Bible or a Christian approach to the spiritual as in terms of a congregation. But yours is probably not in the sense of a congregation, it's your individual pursuit to right that as well. It's great to see how you define that.
Well, the Religious Freedom Act, or the Religious Restoration, I can't remember, that's actually not involved in the lawsuit at all. This is not about religious freedom. This is about freedom.
Personal freedom.
Yeah, personal freedom to have your own human experience, have your own thoughts. The Controlled Substances Act, most of it is centered around drug abuse. I think we all kind of know that. You know, a lot of us don't understand really what it is, but or like how they schedule things or what it means, but it's centered around drug abuse potential. Well, the definition of drug abuse is this is the definition they use, the HHS, FDA, DEA, is your thoughts, feelings, and desires before, during, and after using a substance. So they create criminal penalties based on what are your thoughts, feelings, and desires before you take the substance, while you're taking the substance, and afterwards. How many times you think about taking the substance, after you're done taking it. What do you feel while you're taking it? That is none of their business, and they're using that to decide who goes in cages and who doesn't, who gets labeled a criminal and who doesn't. That is what this is about. your freedom to have your own thoughts, to have your own feelings, and they, you know, and then you gotta think, well, how do they determine this? Well, they do little studies, like, okay, how many times is someone thinking about this? They go onto the internet, they look at chat rooms. Why is someone taking this? What are they doing? So they're going into our thoughts and everything to decide what's criminal and what's not. And that's what this is about. The Religious Freedom Act, I'm just gonna call it that, I can't read the name right now. That is not involved in this. But I did start an organization, it's essentially an ayahuasca church, with the same core, I don't know how to explain it, but core like advocacy that we have a right to believe we want. And so I'm not as well versed in that, but it has the same core, is that your beliefs are sacred. What you believe, and you're expressing those beliefs through whatever your practices are, as long as it's not harming anybody, that's just your personal practice. That's what the free exercise of religion is. They define that as your sincere beliefs. Because everyone has such different beliefs, and those are so sacred to you. If they're your own. A lot of us have beliefs that aren't really our own, but it doesn't matter. What you believe is just so sacred, and you can't like you truly believe that you communicate with plants, and you communicate by having a relationship with them, by ingesting them, or whatever your relationship is with the other spirit. To put someone in prison for that's what that Religious Freedom Act protects. And that's one of the reasons I did create the church, was to kind of stand up for that. That's our birthright, to believe what we want to believe, and to have a relationship with nature, with whatever we feel is right for us, our own human experience. And so yeah, I've only defined it in my mind in case someone wants to come and challenge the church, and come and challenge that, which I'm ready for that, but please come and challenge it. But it's your sincere beliefs, and even the case law has said in regard to that law, is that it's not, you don't have to be part of a group. It is an individual thing. Religion, how you feel, how you believe, is such a personal thing, and that is based on you. So they would just look at the person they're supposed to. So I don't know if that answers.
No, I think you articulate very well. I think for me, coming from a traditional background, a native background, and coming into the world of psychedelics, maybe working with non-natives, that there is a synchronicity in terms of how consciousness can be created and developed, and there's a shared interest in terms of humanity's interest to find and be grounded in the nature of self. And one of those ways is a practice, and a practice is associated with plant medicine. We all share that. We all benefit from that. And I think the way that you articulate it is very much in alignment on that.
Okay.
What's astounding to me is that there's thousands of religions all over the planet, right? How I don't know if I'm correct on this, but I think I read something along the lines of you can't have a church of one. You cannot be a church as an individual. Mm-hmm. They don't allow it. They don't allow for that. But isn't it strange that all around the world there's all these different religions that practice some crazy stuff sometimes, but it's not, our country is supposed to be freedom of religion, no matter what it is. There are mushroom religions. There are tribes that practice all kinds of things that they will not allow here, yet, and the only way to get that to happen is to go fight in court for it. But why should we have to fight in court for something they've already said, this is your freedom?
Exactly.
What's going on? You know what I mean? Like,
That's the point Jennifer's trying to make.
right.
Yeah,
No, I
that's
know,
why
I know.
created the church.
I know.
It was like, no, I'm not going to seek permission. I'm not going, that we have a right
Yeah.
to do this.
Yeah.
Like, go ahead, try to come after me. That no, it's the opposite. Most people are, in fear, are so used to, like, programmed to seek permission. Like, oh, can we do that? Can we do that? It's like, don't even ask that question.
Why do we have to ask?
You're human, and you have just a right to be here and have your own experience as anybody else. Like, that was all created. That you have to have permission, that you shouldn't do something, you shouldn't do this. It's like no one decides that except for you. And that's why, more and more, I love seeing more and more people come out in the open with this, and especially creating, organizations, churches, we call them churches, but why not? That's, people are like, oh, I don't want to church, I don't like that word. It's like, no, don't be a victim to that word. We decide what that means. And we decide what, we come out, we don't hide our beliefs and what we do. That's what's been gotten so many people killed before us. Our ancestors all around the world have been killed, for their connection to nature and for just simply knowing that they're a beautiful creator, and they have the knowledge, and this is taking a stand for all of that. And so it's kind of doing the opposite. Like, no, we have this right, and we're gonna do it. Come at us.
Live for it.
I have one question. I have one question. Well, two things. One is coming from a Native American and coming from that experience and looking out. And I've heard other elders say this, is that at one point, it's always said that at one point humanity is going to fight for their identity. That there's this prophecy that that not just Native Americans are an example of how we're trying to fight for our identity.
Yes.
In terms of our practice, in terms of the 500 years that we've been here, and all of the suppression that has been happening with elders in both South America and North America. It's part of the eagle and condor philosophy prophecy, in that humanity is going to fight for their identity and their abilities to know who they are. And this is what's happening in terms of spiritual practice, in terms of accessing consciousness. So the fact that the physical representation of you doing this is probably an essence of what that prophecy is outliving in that way. And the other thing is what's happening with the state of Arizona at the state legislative level in terms of the psilocybin bill. Do you see some correlations in terms of how that's alignment with some of the things that you're doing in terms of federal courts?
Maybe also clarify, because I don't know if everyone knows what's going on with the Arizona bill.
Are you talking about the one with doing the whole mushroom research, or the
The $6 million grant, or
$5 million.
for the other one?
The one that the bill is
To have above ground legal psilocybin centers? No? Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm actually on the board of that nonprofit. My really good attorney friend wrote that bill.
Share just briefly what that bill is.
Oh, that is to allow, after some training, for health professionals to prescribe and administer mushrooms in a clinical setting, without not doing FDA approval and all that, but just allowing them to offer that as a remedy. So yeah, that the governor vetoed that. I really don't have a stance. Anything that leads towards pharmaceutical company control, I don't really support. I'm not saying I don't support this bill, because that was different. And I honor and support anyone who has the courage to do something that is different, and that says, hey, let's do something different. I love that, I honor that. But with that, I always hesitate when I see something playing within the system and trying to get FDA approval and all that stuff. I can't support that, I just don't. Because I know where that goes, and that's just playing the game that they've created. But that bill was different, though. It was different. It was not saying let's get it prescribed, like MAPS is doing with MDMA. it was just saying, let's let these health professionals at least be able to offer it to people. So that was beautiful. But yeah, that got vetoed, so that'll, we'll keep moving on with that one.
Yeah, I thought it was encouraging that it at least got as far as it did. I mean, it landed on the governor's desk. That's pretty close.
Exactly.
Got almost the home plate. So that's baby steps,
Yeah.
right? But to that end, I know you and I were chatting a little bit earlier about decriminalization. And I imagine you might have some thoughts on that. So maybe go down that road and kind of share your thoughts, and maybe we can kind of kick it into more of a conversation thing a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that's the whole goal of the lawsuit, is just decriminalization of possession of anything. And this isn't about just psychedelics. This is, I'm not leaving my brothers and sisters behind who have gone to prison for non-psychedelics. Like, this is for everything. The thing is, like, most of society, just what I've seen, you see an addict on the street, in a cop car, next to them, putting in handcuffs or whatever. Most people, they're like, who deserves that, And it's just incredible to me that we do that to our fellow human. All because, and that's the thing, no one really, not no one, sorry, I don't want to get too negative here, but all the research I've done and everything I've seen, it's easy to get like that, and that's fun because that gives me the passion and the fuel to do this. But a lot of people, like, somehow we have been programmed over the years where we are okay with pity, like, other humans, our brothers or sisters, our moms and dads, our sons and daughters, that we're okay handing them over to this corporate government to put in a cage that affects their entire life. And it's all because they felt it's possession. Possession is simply holding in your hand something that doesn't have the government's label on it. That's all it is. That people don't think that. They're like, they feel the hurt maybe they have had as a family member, the family member that was an addict or something, or they look at the crime and they have in their mind, that leads to this and leads to that. That's not what the Controlled Substance Act is. The Controlled Substance, there's other laws out there. They're always going to be out there. You can't, be under influence and drive. Robbery's still going to be illegal. All these things are still going to be illegal. This is simply about holding your hand a non-governmental products. And what we're doing is millions and millions of people. And so, and then what I was saying earlier, how they decide what's criminalized and what's not criminalized is based on your thoughts and your feelings and desires. Why are we okay? Like, if you think, I don't know if I want everything to be criminalized. Well, why? Why would you want to decide what somebody else should put in their own body and have their own personal experience? Why would you want someone to decide that for you, what you're allowed to put in your own body? If it makes you feel a certain way, then are you okay? Someone saying, that's making me feel like euphoria is one of the things the Health and Human Services uses to decide what should be criminalized. If you feel euphoria, that's going to lean more towards. Euphoria is defined as extreme happiness. So if you put something in your body and you might feel very happy, and you might think about that substance, maybe
like a cookie or something.
Yeah.
Oh, weird.
A really good cookie.
Whoa.
It's borderline euphoric.
Exactly. But we're okay with saying, no, you shouldn't feel that. You deserve to go in a cage.
But
No.
alcohol's fine.
Yeah, no one should decide that for anybody, and no one gets to decide that for me, and I'm not going to decide that for anybody. I don't care what you do. If you want to feel whatever, and even if you are thinking about something so many times a day, how is that my business, and why should you go in a cage for that? And not just that, but when you're labeled, your spirit is broken, you're crushed as a human, you decided as collectively as a society that you were worthless, and then you start to fear that, and you believe that about yourself. And it's all for commercialization, all because it doesn't meet the government, because you didn't go through the government's drug dealer. They had convinced everybody that you're a bad person, and then you get convinced you're a bad person. And I don't know. So
on top of that, I just want to add to, I think that's all great information, and I think we're preaching to the choir here, but just one other aspect for all of us to think about, or for us to take with us as we're having these conversations outside of these walls, because that's how this stuff breaks down is when we start to talk about it. Simply just the cost, right? Like, the cost of the war on drugs to maintain that is coming out of each one of yours wallets, You guys are paying for the war on drugs. If you want to pay for it, you're paying for it. If you don't want to pay for it, you are still paying for it. There's no option, and it's expensive. It's very, very expensive. So just think about like even if you're not like pro psychedelics or whatever, it's like, well, are you pro money? Like most people are usually with like a few extra bucks back in their wallet, and it's very, very, very expensive to do all that stuff and to house all these quote unquote criminals and all this stuff too. So.
Just imagine if we used all that money to help people who actually have an abuse problem.
Exactly.
Rather than caging them and spending all this money on tanks and armored vehicles and machine guns to go fight the war.
And it's all to protect the trillions of dollars that the pharmaceutical companies and then the corporate, because if you don't know it, the United States is a corporation. The DEA is the private security force of the pharmaceutical companies.
Yep, 100%.
That's all they are.
100%.
They're the private security guards, making sure those pharmaceutical companies get their money. And we are paying for that. I'm glad you brought that up. I forgot what else I was going to say.
Speaking of DEA, what's your thoughts on MAPS and MDMA and DEA and all that fun stuff going on?
Well, when I found out that the committee they voted, of course it's still up to, that's one of the parts of my lawsuit too, how the FDA works. It's just one guy that approves things. But there's a committee that makes recommendations, and the committee recommended not to approve MDMA. Honestly, a little part of me celebrated, because the FDA being involved in anything is, they're all, they're 70% funded by the pharmaceutical companies. The pharmaceutical companies are sit in on the meetings to decide their budgets, and they're the ones, or the guy that decides, and I wrote that in the lawsuit, if there's a new drug application, there's only one person that has to decide yes, and they just sit there and fast track, and it's all based on money. So to have something be in their hands, I don't support that. So part of me kind of celebrate. I know it would have been good in a way. It could have. There's other things. And I'm not committed to any outcomes. I trust the universe. I trust how things unfold, and I see the good in everything. And I know it's all going to flow and cycle the way it's supposed to, anyways. That's just natural. It's the law of the universe. But yeah, a part of me did kind of celebrate.
Maybe we'll take any more final questions on the lawsuit thing. I have one final question too, in that what, if anything, can any of us do to help? Then maybe we could talk a little bit more about like church and some other stuff that you got going in life. It doesn't have to all be about the lawsuit too. So.
To help, I just believing in it, this is energetic. I was trained energetically for this. I've worked on this so many times in ceremonies. I was trained to recognize different energies, to be prepared, because I knew coming out, this is going to sound strange to some people who don't maybe understand this, but I know a lot of you will. But doing this definitely ignites, it opens up, the risk of certain energies that don't want this to happen to come in. And they've tried, and they will continue to try. But I have received training, spiritual training, to recognize them, and I don't fear them. I just know how they work. And so, and I know the power of belief, that's what, when you don't give those energies attention, you don't, meet them, you don't match them, like I'm not fighting these energies. I just don't care. They're going to try to do what they do. I believe in what we do. And so just believing in this, you don't even have to talk about it. Just believing in it and just saying yes, let's do this. And just knowing within yourself that you have the power, you have the communication. It's all within you, and you are secret. You are sovereign. And just knowing that and standing up for your own self and having the courage to be, yourself and have your own beliefs, that in and of itself is going to help this. That's all we need. So
Any questions for Jennifer on the
I
lawsuit?
have one more. I know
Yeah.
I'm talking my head off over here.
Do it.
So, what if we all sued, like individually? What if we just attacked? Like, what if we did that? Would that
That'd be
help?
great.
Would that help the movement?
Sure. That's why I posted. Okay, so I had a website, but it actually went down because it was $250 a month. I didn't really have an income, so I was like, okay, let me not pay for that anymore. So I don't have the website right now, but I'm going to transfer it over as soon as I can to Wix because I already have like 2 years paid on Wix. Anyways. Now I've got your question.
I'll sue.
Okay.
Oh,
sue.
sue.
I'll
That's
sue.
why I posted it on there. I posted the lawsuit and I wrote it for the general public in mind because if anyone wants to take any of these arguments, go for it. Like, please do. And I don't know that it would work necessarily in the same state, just because they would say, hey, there's already one going, so you're not
That's
we're
what I'm
not going to
saying.
decide on
Let's
all
annoy
of
the
these.
hell out of them until they have to listen.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
know what I
feel,
mean?
please, and you can even just copy and paste this stuff if you want and just put in your own standing. Like, oh, I do this, I grow this, I take this, and just put in your own standing. Feel free. That's why I posted it. Like,
I'm down.
do it.
Captain?
In line with what you said, I think the government was giving Scientology a hard time about becoming a religion. And what they started doing, you know, they wanted religious status, and the IRS wouldn't give it to them. So they had all their members individually sue.
Why not?
Same.
Different people in the IRS, and eventually they caved in.
I like that. It's the power of the people, you know,
Right.
when we stand up and say, no,
Yeah.
I hate the more of us that do it, yeah.
But everything that you're talking about basically falls to the concept of pursuit of happiness. And the principle of pursuit of happiness is that we have a right to do what we want to do as long as it's not
Yeah.
infringing or hurting somebody else.
Exactly. No matter
So-
what that looks like.
Right.
Amen.
And you're fighting one infringement that our government bureaucracy is imposing on us and you specifically, individually. But if you really look at all the government bureaucracies, they're not in line with the Constitution.
Not at all.
They're playing some other game. And it's really just a matter of time before somebody realizes that this somehow against the law. Like the whole thing with immigration, they treat immigrants as if immigrants don't have constitutional rights. The Constitution does not recognize the difference between an immigrant and a citizen. It says that we are endowed to certain inalienable rights by our Creator.
We the
Does
people.
not make
We
a
the people.
distinction. Yeah, it does not make a distinction,
Yeah.
okay, between which people, okay, or whether they're citizens.
Yeah, it was amazing to me when I was doing the research. I still shake my head like, how has this gone on? This is so obvious. Like I found documents from 1965 that I included in there from World Health Organization, and where they were going through each like category of substances before they decided in those treaties what all of us could do or not do, or the experiences we could have and not have as humans. And they named it the LSD type substances. That's just what they called it back then. And they said, you know, does not cause dependency. These are the exact, like almost exact quotes too. Does not cause dependency. The user might use it once, twice, won't need it again. Doesn't cause, you know, physical dependency, anything. But used by nonconformists, used by people with artistic and intellectual pursuits, used by people who want to expand their consciousness and gain insight into their personal issues, or I can't remember exactly what it was. And then like that's what they put, you know. And then of course they called it morphine type at that time for like opiates and stuff like that. Could cause physical dependency within a couple days, psychological dependency, harmful, deadly, blah, blah, blah. And then the end of that document, what's illegal? Oh, the ones by non-conformists, by the people who are intellectual, artistic types, you know, who want expand their minds, and which one's legal, the deadly, addictive one. And it was just there's so much that was so obvious. Like I even tried to do a side-to-side comparison of they did two like scheduling decisions on two substances in the same year that I did the lawsuit. One was like an Ambien type drug, and so they compared it to Ambien. And the other one was compared to like LSD and psilocybin and everything. I can't remember right now. But anyways, and I tried to do a side-by-side comparison of how they look at one drug versus the other, and it was almost impossible to do because this one, the Ambien type, so many people have it's related to thousands of deaths. So much stuff. They didn't even mention one of those. But then this one that was related to LSD, I can't think of it right now. It was all the 5. It wasn't in the old. It was like 5 of those. Anyways, they had one death that they could maybe relate to it, but they were on antidepressants and alcohol and everything at the same time. And so it was just incredible how obvious this is. Like, how can we get away with this? And how has nobody done anything about this? So, yeah.
Well, sometimes people have tried to do something, they're just crushed.
Not like this, though. Like,
No,
not
not
really
like-
call it out. They
not
kind of
really.
still play within the game. Like, this is scheduled incorrectly. Like,
We were all duped.
no one's really called. I know. They know how easy it is to make people think stuff. As long as you make people think they're doing the right thing. Like, this is harmful to humans, so so we shouldn't allow it. Putting them in prison and cage and labeling as a criminal, that's for their own good. I'm like, I'm a good person because I want that person to be, to go to prison because that's for their own good. So therefore, I'm a good person because I want that. And if they can convince you you're doing good, they can convince you of anything. So, yeah.
Well, I say kudos to you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Excited to see where it goes, and if there is anything that we can do, more physical or tangible, in outreaching. Happy to support that, and love to hear a little bit more about what the rest of life's been like for you outside of the loss. I know it's wrapped up a lot of your time and energy and
That's
attention,
okay.
but more medicine stuff you've been doing, church stuff, any of that stuff that you want to share with the group here.
I don't know. I've just been having that human experience, going through. This definitely isn't an easier path. I've learned that really recently. You think, I don't know. This is just a different path. When you choose a path of awareness and kind of seeing things and going through these things, it's not easier at all. So I've just been, going through the human experience, that path, and but yeah, I have recently. I was helping to serve ayahuasca with my best friend here in the States, and then with my partner in Mexico, and he recently got his visa to come to the States, and he wanted to start serving ayahuasca in the States, and I just happened to know, I'm like, this is a protection, what about establishing a church so you can do that? And he's like, yeah, that sounds great. And I loved it because it brought me back to the lawsuit thing, stand up for, be out in the open, not be afraid, let's do this. And so he asked me to partner with him, and we started the Heart of Mother Earth is the name of our ayahuasca church. And we do ceremonies twice a month, one in the Phoenix area, one in the Tucson area. And that was its own beautiful creation, to create something. Everything's energy, and these energies, they want to be birthed into the physical world, and so they kind of look for channels to birth them into the physical world, and that's what Heart of Mother Earth, she's her own entity. And she found me and my partner, and we were essentially chosen by her to birth her into the world so she can be an energy and experience this physical world. And it's been an honor. It's just been such an honor to birth her and go on that journey of being responsible for every beautiful human that comes to our ceremonies, and responsible for that space that we hold. And so I don't know. It's new. I'm still learning. But it's an honor. It's such an honor.
What's the easiest way for people to get in contact with that if they want? If you're curious about ceremonies or something?
I'm sorry.
If they're curious about ceremonies, how do they get in contact with that?
So
Heart of Mother Earth, is that?
yes, Heart of Mother Earth, but the website, yeah, you're on Facebook and Instagram. But the website is, because Heart of Mother Earth, the acronym is HOME. So it's carryushome.com. Right now though, we paused because for one, my lawsuit and my partner has some personal things for the month of July. So we paused the ceremonies, but they will be back up, probably in August. So, but carryushome.com is that one. And then the lawsuit website, when I get it transferred over to Wix, it takes so much time. I built like 3 lawsuits, or not lawsuits, websites now, and it takes a lot of time, but the lawsuit website, which has some information on it, and also has all the pleadings, the complaint, and everything on there. When that is back up, it is decriminalizeourminds.com. I bought all the domains, so it's decrimourminds.com, decrimourminds.org, decriminalizeourminds.com, decriminalizeourminds.org. I think that's it. Good.
Does anyone have any more questions for Jen before we wrap up for tonight? Comments, going twice, no? Good. Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Let's give her a big round of applause. Putting yourself out there and doing all this, putting it together. I know you put a ton of time and energy and effort into it, and not to the finish line yet, so still more to go. So I really appreciate that. Apology for that. And, like you said, it's the first domino. No matter what, the first domino's been pushed over, and keep it. Either you or someone else will keep it going from here. So it's exciting. Just a few updates for everyone else. We will not be meeting here next Monday. This is kind of the last of our series of events. So we're going to be taking a little time off in July. We'll still have a few other events, Integration Circle and some other stuff. And then we'll kind of kick things back up in August. We won't be doing every Monday. We might be doing like every other Monday or something. But and then we're also going to be having, we'll post it soon, but we're going to need to do if anyone wants to be more involved in the society beyond just a member, you can come to that. We're going to talk about some different committees and events committees and stuff like that. So if you have any interest at all in getting involved at any level, just keep your eye on meet up for that. Come out to that event. We'll chat about that more. And yeah, just keep your eye on meet up for future events, and appreciate all you guys coming out. Love you a lot. Have a good night.